Hi, and welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Today, I am so fortunate to be speaking with a woman who has a deep passion for cows. She was born into a beef farming family, studied agriculture at the University of Guelph, Kemptville campus, spent years working in dairy, then spent 15 years farming 2,500 acres in Australia. Now, North America is lucky to have her home again, where she currently heads up the North American division for KühlerZ, core body cooling. I'd like to welcome Nancy Vander Byl.
Hi, Chrissy.
And she's also a dear friend of mine as well, which a lot of you already know that who've seen us around. So thank you so much. And as I understand, you were born into farming. Can you tell me about your background?
Yeah, well, yes, for sure. I was born into a big family in Eastern Ontario, the Vander Byls. My dad is the oldest son of Dutch immigrants, and I am his oldest daughter. So farming was always a part of my life. I always tease him that he had 5 kids, so that he had, 5 rock pickers, because we lived in Glengarry County, rocks everywhere. And I had a huge passion for agriculture. I used to beg him to go to the cattle auctions. I loved doing that. And then I went to Kemptville College of Agriculture and Technology. That's only like an hour away from home, but it was a really great place to go, grow up, learn more about ag. And then I worked on dairy farms because dairy farmers could always pay you. So I paid my way through college a couple of times doing that. And then went to Australia on international agricultural exchange program, which was a really, really wonderful experience. Fell in love with Australia, came back to Canada, met an Australian, married the Australian, and then farmed in Australia for 15 years, where I ran a beef farm. We ran 400 head of Angus Simmental cross on 2,500 acres, like you said. So it was very, very fun experience, learning about, drought tolerance and always getting water to your cattle on time on hot summer days, and dealing with the heat and the flies and all of the fun stuff that happens there. And then our children got to an age where they were going to have to go away to boarding school. So we came back home to Canada, and I started working in the ag industry again in Canada, and ended up meeting up with Martin Fontavashitsky, who's the president of KühlerZ, and he offered me this job. So I've been doing that ever since. It's a really great job. I love working in the ag industry, and I love working for a product that actually makes a massive impact on dairy farms. So
that's amazing. So heat stress costs the dairy industry millions of dollars a year through loss of production, reproduction, increases in metabolic disorders. So what does KühlerZ do to solve these problems?
So KühlerZ is actually really unique in that it is maintaining core body temperature. So the system has a really intuitive controller that is always monitoring the temperature and humidity in the barn and adjusting itself accordingly. So we have a really powerful fan that's powered by an EC motor. It's incredibly energy efficient and very, very powerful. And then we also have a intermittent or timed ultrafine mist that comes on for times like now where it's excessively hot. The mist will come on for, like, say, a minute, and then they'll be air cooled for 3 minutes, and then the mist will come on for a minute. So what it's doing is creating an imitation sweat that's landing on the skin of the cow, and as that moisture particle dries up, it creates a chilling effect that cools the blood flowing just below the surface of the skin. And that cooled blood is how we maintain core body temperature.
Wow. So do the cows get wet then?
So the cows don't get wet, and the bedding doesn't get wet. The whole idea behind monitoring the temperature and humidity in the barn is that we know how much droplets to put out, so that, and then how long to turn them off for, so that they all evaporate. So every molecule of moisture that we put out is actually evaporating. So there's no accumulation of moisture. So yeah, so we're not soaking the bedding, we're not soaking the cow, we're not, the stalling isn't getting wet. That's all timed and done precisely according to the temperature and humidity index in the barn.
Wow. And how does the consistency or lack of consistency affect cows?
So cows love consistency. They're like one of the most boring creatures on the planet. They want every day to be the same as the next day. For them, that's like the perfect day, right? It's kind of like whenever our kids were toddlers and we just had them at home all day, and the perfect day was a day when there was no like bumps or in the road or anything. That's exactly what cows want, exactly the same every day. So I guess that's where KühlerZ really streaks ahead of other systems on the market, because we're doing this 365 days a year. So it's not just now whenever everybody's talking about heat stress, it's actually all year round. So in December, when you have that random warm day and the temperature gets warmer in the barn, the cooler system is actually working to level that out so that she doesn't actually notice those huge swings in temperature. It's incredibly beneficial in the spring and the fall of the year, where we're looking at 20-degree temperature variance at any, like on any given day, right? We'll wake up in the morning, it'll be 50 degrees, and then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 70 degrees, right? Those days really knock the stuffing out of cows. And what people find is that there's a huge increase in respiratory diseases at that time of year because of that fluctuation and the increased humidity in the barn and stuff. And so that's where a lot of our customers are actually finding a really huge difference, is that the cooler system is coming on at 30% when it's 50 degrees or 10 degrees in the barn. And it's coming on at 30% and it's changing all the air, it's pulling out all of the moisture, it's drying everything up, and it's keeping her core body temperature exactly the same. Then as the temperature increases, the speed of the fan increases because it's monitoring what that temperature is doing. So it's ramping up and going faster and faster. So it's actually maintaining her core body temperature. So she doesn't even notice those fluctuations. That's like a phenomenal thing that the cooler system can give to farming operations that nothing else on the market can.
Right. That is really cool. So
I think so.
yeah.
Cool by name, cool by nature.
So a lot of people I know would think, why not just fans in their barn? So, what's the answer to that?
Okay. So there's lots of just a fan, I like to call them, brands out there, and they're inexpensive, a dime a dozen. You can get them from anywhere and whack a whole bunch of them up in your barn. So the big problem is that they're single speed. And so you have to make a decision as a farmer. Am I going to turn the fans on today, or am I going to leave them off today? Right? So sometimes you've got your fans running at 100% and you don't really need them on. So they're providing too much cooling and they're burning too much energy to do that, right? Other times it's 30 degrees outside, right? Like 75, 80 degrees for our American watchers. And the fans are going at 100% and the cows are standing and they're panting and they're not eating and they're, your production numbers are dropping. And that's because those fans, even though they're running at 100%, just aren't giving that cooling relief, right? It's on those days that, the cooler system is coming on. We're having that intermittent timed mist that's acting like the imitation sweat, and it's keeping that core body temperature down. So before she can even feel heat stressed, we're just maintaining that core body temperature and we're keeping her in her thermal comfort zone. She doesn't even notice that it's hot. For her, it feels like every day is a cool day.
Right. So what about ambient air cooling?
Oh, that is such a great question, and a question that I get asked all the time. So the way that the cooler system works, there is some ambient air temperature, like a lessening of the ambient air temperature, but that's not actually our main focus. Our main focus is on maintaining core body temperature and keeping that cow comfortable and cool. I mean, if you think about how much ambient air is in a barn, if we were going to create a system that was just going to cool ambient air temperature, we would need it. We're talking about air conditioning for barns, right? And that's just not financially possible. So what we do by maintaining core body temperature is that we're using, minimal energy, minimal water, getting maximum effect. And so that's why ambient air cooling is a pleasant side effect. And every single one of our customers will tell you that the nicest place to be on a hot summer day is in the barn, because that's where it's the coolest. But that's not actually what we're looking at, right? We're not looking at lowering ambient air temperature. We're looking at maintaining core body temperature.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too about the ratio between the cow and comfort and milk production, and then your energy usage, right? And can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. So the cooler system is powered by an EC motor. So EC is electronically communicated. And so a lot of the fans that are on the market today are AC motors, and then there's also a DC motor. So the EC motor is kind of an evolution of the AC and the DC motor. So it takes all of the best of ideas behind that motor technology, but then makes it like so much better. So it's magnetic drive, it's direct drive, so there's no belts. So that decreases the maintenance a lot. Anybody who's had to fix a belt-driven fan on a hot summer day knows that that's very painful. So it's a direct drive. The motor's completely sealed. It's all self-greasing. And that EC motor has, they call it like a soft start, right? So the other cool thing is if you go into a barn that's all full of belt-driven fans and you flick the switch to turn them all on, you can actually see the power drain. The lights will dim, and like it's phenomenal, the power drain when you go to start up those AC motor fans, up like a barn full of them. So lots of farmers will have them set up so that they start on a sequence. The great thing about the cooler system is that it has, because of that magnetic drive, it doesn't have that power draw. And then the other cool thing is that a lot of these AC motor fans, like the average 52-inch panel fan, is going to be pulling 5.8 to 6 amps of power, whereas the core cool fan and the cool blue fans, they are pulling like 3 amps, 3.5 amps of power. So at 100%.
Wow.
And they're using significantly less power at variable speed.
Wow. And really, at the end of the day, you need to decrease all of those input costs, right? Whether it's energy, feed, whatever. This is an amazing way to save money, right?
Right. We're actually one of the only fans on the market that was eligible for grant money. A couple of years ago in Ontario, there was a program where if your fans were energy efficient enough, you could actually get approval for the purchase of the fans. So that program's not around anymore, but we were one of the only fans that were eligible for that. So I think that'll give producers a little bit of comfort in knowing that it is an energy efficient system because it was approved for this grant application.
Great. And so what about the amount of water that the system uses? How does it differ from other systems?
That's another great question. Fantastic. So a lot of systems on the market today that offer evaporative cooling, because that's what KühlerZ does, it offers evaporative cooling, use copious amounts of water. So bunk line soakers or high pressure misting systems, they use lots and lots of water. And the unique thing about the cooler system is that it provides exactly the same amount of cooling using a fraction of the water. So we were involved in a study with Professor John Bernard from the University of Georgia, and he tested our system against high pressure, high volume water usage system. And his results actually determined that the same amount of cooling was achieved using 43% less water than these high pressure misting systems. So that was really significant. And if anybody wants to see that result, they can contact me, nancy@kühlerz.com. I'm sure you'll hook them up with that, and I can absolutely send them the results to that study.
That's really awesome. And it's important to use the system year round, not just in the summer?
Absolutely. So the other really neat thing about the EC motor and the technology of the system that we use is actually internally there's a I'm going to call it a thing for lack of a better word just right now, that is always monitoring the temperature. And what it's doing is it's keeping the inside of the motor the right temperature, and it's keeping the inside of the motor dry. So it's always keeping your motor, like that's going to give you the longest longevity, right, for the system. And then the new core cool system, which I'm super excited about, actually will stay on at 30% or 25% all of the time. So it's always slowly spinning, and it's using less energy than a 40-watt light bulb to do this, might I add. So super energy efficient, and it's always spinning slowly. And what it's doing is it's keeping that air in the barn moving just a little bit, right? And it's so quiet, you don't even know that it's happening. So it's keeping that air moving just a little bit. And it's drying up all the moisture and all of the humidity. So even in December, January, February, we're seeing massive benefits from just keeping that air gently stirred, still nice and quiet in the barn, because they're whisper quiet. And it's helping with the longevity of the motor, because everything is staying greased and everything is wonderful. And then there's one other little added benefit to that, and that is that because the fan blades are always moving, we can't have those pesky birds can't get in there and build a nest, right?
Right.
Yeah, because that's never a fun job in the spring to like go in and like get all those crusty old bird nests out of the systems before. So with those fan blades always moving, the birds don't have the opportunity to build a nest in the fan. So
that is a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thinking about the industry in general, what do you think are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges that we're facing today?
So one of the things that I love the most about the ag industry right now is how much research and development is going into sustainability. I think that we are all conscious in the ag industry and as farmers that the environment is super important to us. And so we are working really hard as an industry to become more sustainable. And I really think that that's where KühlerZ streaks ahead as well. That's another like place that I'm so proud to represent, to head up the North American division of KühlerZ, because what we're doing is wonderful. We're using less power, so that's great, right? And we're using less water, and water is a really precious resource on farm today. So I think that today's farmer is, technology driven. He really loves the environment, and he loves his cows. And I think that, KühlerZ is a really great fit for that farmer, because it's all about technology. It's all about, sustainability, and it's all about only using the resources that you need to provide cooling that, is going to give your herd such huge benefits moving forward. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so I ask everyone, what are you most passionate about? What fires you up and gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, obviously I'm passionate about cooling cows, right? I'm passionate about the ag industry. I really love like so many things about KühlerZ. I think that it's a wonderful brand to be involved in, and I love seeing the difference that it makes in the ag industry. So you started the segment by saying heat stress costs the dairy industry millions of dollars every year. That is a very, very true statement. And for years and years and years, farmers have just accepted that, right? Or had to accept that. Yeah. They know that heat's coming. They know summer's coming. They know there's going to be drops in production, reproduction. They know there's going to be more metabolic issues. They know they're going to have an increase in fall lameness. And, they only ever used to be able to put fans in or throw in some bunkline soakers. But now they have this really great option. They have KühlerZ, right? They can invest in a KühlerZ system and provide cows with the consistency that they crave, right? We all know cows love consistency. That's why the TMR industry is crazy, right? Because cows want every single bite to be exactly the same. That's how we get the most out of them, by giving them TMR. We buy all kinds of fancy feed inputs. We buy the best TMR mixer. We want every mouthful to be the same whenever we do that shaker box test. We put so much into that. And that's what KühlerZ is. KühlerZ is providing that same consistency to cows, right? Where every day feels like the same cool day. So then farmers, okay, so the cow is healthier and they're performing better, and we're maximizing their longevity, and we're maximizing their performance and their production, and we're getting them back into calf, and we're spending less money on vet bills, and everything is great because we're able to take advantage of all of the other stuff that we spend our money on, right? That robot feed pusher, every time that robot feed pusher pushes up the feed, the cows are there eating because they're cooled at the bunk, or they're cool and they're going to go eat. We want cows to be going to the bunk 11 to 14 times a day. And when they're hot, they don't do that.
Right.
They stand under the bunk line soakers, and they just stand and they try to cool. If there's no bunk line soakers, they're standing in the alleys and they're panting and they're gasping for breath. They don't sweat like people do, right? They don't sweat like humans do. They can't self-regulate their temperature. So what KühlerZ is doing is creating sweat for them. We're creating this imitation sweat that's maintaining their core body temperature. It's cooling their blood and it's keeping them cool. And so they feel like every day is a cool day. And that way we're able to maximize all those other inputs. I mean, we're always looking for ways to make our cows more comfortable, right? And this is one thing that we can do that's going to maximize everything else that we give them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I might have got a little passionate there. I'm sorry.
Well, we believe you now that you.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing whenever you go and talk to a customer, right? And they say to you, you know, we've had these fans in since 2016, and since then, metabolic issues are pretty much gone, right? The vet never comes here anymore. Mm-hmm. And you see that hoof trimming chute over there, we never have to use that. I used to be blocking cows all the time, and now I hardly ever block cows. Like, it's not just about production and reproduction. It's like a full cycle. That's actually what the farmer said to me. He said, it's unbelievable how it's this full cycle, right? Wow. And everything, heat stress just impacts everything, even things you didn't think about, right? Like his calves, they're born healthier. They're so vigorous. They jump up and they run and they hit the ground running and they start gaining weight and they're outperforming their sisters. Like, they're before the dams were cooled, they're outperforming them. And he's like, it's amazing. It's having effects on every generation, moving down. I can see it, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I get to talk to farmers like that, that's when I know that what I'm doing it's making a difference. It's having an impact. And I love that. I love that because I am a farmer. I'm a farm kid. I'm a farmer. Farming is terminal. Okay. Once you're a farmer, you're not getting out till you're out in a pine box. Like, it's terminal. I am a farmer. Right. And I will never, ever be able to represent something that rips farmers off. I just can't do it. I can't do it because those are my brothers and my sisters and my moms and my dads and my aunts and my uncles. Those are my people, right? And that's what I love about KühlerZ. That's what I'm passionate about, right? It's making a difference and helping people, helping cattle, helping everybody get more out of their life, because farming is life.
Absolutely. So where can people find you?
So our website is www.kühlerz.com. So KUHLERZ.com. We're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're everywhere. I'm pretty sure if you just Google cow coolers, cooling cows, that you will find us. We're everywhere. And our phone number is actually really cute. It's 1-844-GET-COOL, KUHL. So those calls all come right to me. So you can give it a call and I'll answer the phone myself and we can have a chat. And I would absolutely love to help cool your cows and make every day a cool day on your farm.
That is so awesome. And I know where else they can find you. You will also be in the North American Egg booth at Empire Farm Days and at World Dairy Expo.
I absolutely will. I will be there helping you out. And yeah, if farmers want to stop by and see me or us, I would be super happy to chat with them for sure.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today, Nancy. It was so great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always so great to catch up with you. Thanks a lot.
And thanks to everybody who's watching or listening. If you want more information, all the links will be provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to our North American Egg Spotlight YouTube channel and podcast that's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day.
Bye. Stay cool.